Yuya wakes up one day only to find out that he has a new sister. While eating breakfast, his father tells him and his new wife that they will be going overseas to work. Since they are now a family, he says Mitsuki can count on Yuya when they aren't there. Yuya notices from his class window that his stepsister is slow in sports. Yuya tries to reach out to her in the street but she gives him a cold shoulder. She dozes off for a moment and falls, but luckily Yuya is there to catch her. The doctor says she is alright. When she wakes up and sees Yuya's nose bleed, she gets a heart bump and embraces him, calling him Oni-chan to his surprise. After a moment, Mitsuki comes to her senses and blushes, then kicks Yuya. Mitsuki's mother asks her to thank him in the taxi, but she runs to her room. She dreams of how she fell, and it was because of a winged girl. She notices something on her hips, a chastity belt. Kotobuki Hiyori, the friendly neighborhood ghost, appears and calls it a TST. Hiyori takes over Mitsuki's body with a kiss to start having fun. But Mitsuki manages to take it back. Then Hiyori starts doing things together, so they get to really know each other. When they're done, a drop fills the heart-shaped container on the belt. Hiyori explains that she can push the gauge to release the belt. Mitsuki sneaks to the bathroom, but the belt gets locked again. It turns out that the belt only releases for 3 minutes and gauge can be pushed once again after 1 hour. Yuya is returning from the market when he bumps into Nico, who asks about his stepsister. Hiyori was telling him that the belt is made in heaven when Mitsuki's mom returns home and hears it. She gets worried and asks Yuya to talk with her. She still has to wait a few minutes before relieving herself, so she can't talk much. When 1 hour hits, she feels a heavenly relief. Mitsuki asks Hiyori why she keeps calling Yuya Oni-chan. According to Hiyori, certain conditions must be met in order for her to go to heaven and she wants Mitsuki's help in fulfilling them. Hiyori takes Mitsuki to a dark place with a golden gate and explains that she used to love Yuya when she was alive, but doesn't remember much more than that. In order for her to enter heaven, she must fill up a heart-shaped gauge which shows the level of satisfaction she gets from her love life. Mitsuki heads to school before Yuya and changes in the bathroom to prevent anyone from seeing the belt. It turns out that Mitsuki and Yuya have PE class today, and Hiyori takes over her body to run fast, wanting to get Yuya's attention. Hiyori tells Mitsuki that the satisfaction level on the gauge will steadily decrease and, if it falls below a certain reading, they will both die. Worried, Yuya takes Mitsuki's hand and takes her to the nurse's office. Mitsuki is barely holding up, and at Hiyori's suggestion, she tries to pee in the vase, but is caught by Yuya and the nurse. Aunt Nanami is taking Mitsuki home. Someone is also moving next door. After entering the house, Mitsuki sees Yuya naked in the bathroom and runs to her room. Mitsuki's friend Ayaka calls to check on her. After taking a bath, Mitsuki realizes that the bathroom door is broken, and Yuya comes to open it. However, Hiyori takes over and pulls Yuya inside, leaving both Mitsuki and Yuya locked in the bathroom. Yuya gives Mitsuki his clothes, and Mitsuki talks about her abusive father and how they were hurt by a bad man. Yuya comforts her by saying he and his father would never hurt them, which gives Mitsuki some satisfaction. Suddenly, someone rings their doorbell, and Yuya asks her to come in and open the door for them. Mitsuki tries to stand up but slips. Yuya's childhood friend Yukina opens the door and finds them in a strange position. When Mitsuki and Ayaka return from school, they see Yuya with Yukina, and Mitsuki seems jealous and threatened. Hiyori tells Mitsuki that jealous and stressful love life will hasten the reduction of satisfaction levels. Possessed by Hiyori, Mitsuki clings to Yuya and feels that Yukina is looking at her. In an attempt to embarrass Yukina, Hiyori acts as if she slipped and throws cake at her, but she eats it in a seductive way. Mitsuki tries to take back control of her body, but she makes Yuya fall on Yukina. Hiyori then asks Yuya if he likes small or big ones, and his answer is satisfactory. The next morning, a drunk Nanami comes over and spills water on Mitsuki, who then takes off her underwear and heads to school ahead of everyone. While talking, Hiyori also feels that Yukina is looking at her. At school, Mitsuki realizes she forgot to wear another one. Ayaka then invites Mitsuki to eat in the courtyard, but Yuya grabs her hand and wants to know what is bothering her. Yukina helps Mitsuki, but due to a strong wind, Yuya sees under Mitsuki's skirt and gets taken aback. Yuya calls Mitsuki for dinner, but she doesn't answer. Hiyori teases her for not being honest. Hiyori makes breakfast, and her change of character makes Yuya wonder if she is like a completely different person. Hiyori and Yuya go out shopping, with Mitsuki following them as a ghost. In the market, they bump into Yukina. Nico says she shouldn't be separated for too long to Mitsuki, but she thinks it might be her imagination. Hiyori and Yuya have fun throwing rocks, which reminds him of a girl from the neighborhood who used to call him Oni-chan. Upon hearing this, Hiyori gets excited and runs to him, but falls into the water. She hugs him and says that girl is probably her. Mitsuki tries to intervene but can't enter her own body. Hiyori happily washes dishes, as she had a lot of fun today and her gauge is filled halfway. Yuya suspects she must have two personalities in one body. Mitsuki tells Hiyori how she was repelled when she tried to enter her body. She asks Hiyori to get out of her body, but she has something else in mind. She acts as if she's scared of lightning and asks Yuya to sleep together. Later at night, she sneaks under his blanket. Mitsuki tries to get into her body again, but still can't. Hiyori dares too much, and Yuya gets up and says she shouldn't force herself to get closer. This makes Hiyori emotional, and she gets out and kicks Mitsuki into her body. After getting kicked out of his room, Yuya decides to sleep on his couch. Ayaka invited Mitsuki to a pool, where she bumps into Yukina, Yuya, and his friends. They are all having fun, but since Mitsuki cannot swim, she is sitting with Nico. Hiyori tries to join in, but fails. Yuya notices that Mitsuki is sulking and, apparently, he also notices Hiyori. Suddenly, Yukina loses her balance and falls underwater, and Yuya follows her. Seeing him drowning, Mitsuki jumps into the water without delay. However, her leg cramps up, so Yuya takes her to the infirmary. While carrying her, her underwear falls out, and Yuya puts her down. Her TST is in plain sight, and people are coming. Yuya kisses her to make the people walk away, and then lends her his own trunks. The next day, Yukina brings Mitsuki's swimsuit and asks Yuya to give it to her, since Mitsuki is sick. He wonders why she wears the TST. Mitsuki is not in a good mood and is embarrassed. She tries to cut the belt off with scissors, but falls on the ground after a moment, and the color of her gauge looks murky. Yuya brings her food, and Mitsuki calls for help. He rushes in. Mitsuki pushes him down, but he notices Hiyori. Yuya sees Mitsuki again and wonders where the other girl went. He puts Mitsuki in her bed, and Hiyori is happy about Mitsuki's last night's advance, but Mitsuki is in a bad mood. Yuya and Yukina go out to pick cakes for Mitsuki, and on their way back home, Yuya consults Yukina. He thinks her mother might have forced her to wear it, but discards the idea after a second thought. He then thinks about Mitsuki's winged friend and suspects they might be a cosplay couple. Mitsuki tells Yuya they need to talk, and then goes to take a bath. While she is away, Hiyori double-checks if Mitsuki is still asleep and sits next to Yuya. When Mitsuki wakes up, she is upset with Hiyori and has had enough. Yuya grabs Mitsuki's shoulder, making Hiyori nervous and forcing her to switch places. Yuya then continues to say that she doesn't have to force herself to come out as lesbian, and mentions Hiyori. It seems that Yuya can't always see Hiyori. After hearing Yuya's comforting words, Mitsuki gets happy, even though he is very mistaken about her situation. Hiyori makes Mitsuki's breasts grow with magic, and then she wakes up from her dream. She blames Yuya for her weird dream and throws the magazine at him. Yuya gives her aquarium tickets that he got from Nico, which makes both Mitsuki and Hiyori very happy. They both enjoy their time at the aquarium. When Mitsuki thinks that this looks like a date, she takes over the body. Yuya calls for her, which makes her really excited. Mitsuki tells her mother used to work there and she often visited the aquarium, and how lonely she felt. Yuya also used to hang out with his friends there when he was a kid. He suggests they might have met each other before. Mitsuki asks if he knew any girl called Hiyori, but he doesn't recall. In the bathroom, Hiyori tells her that her true name isn't Hiyori, since she doesn't remember anything about her past life. She adopted this name from a book. Mitsuki and Yuya enter a pool with a lot of fish. He holds her leg, which makes her excited again. Then she blames Yuya and starts crying. Yuya pets her head, which soothes her. At home, Hiyori tells her that her heart was throbbing heavily before because they are now in more sync. Nanami has just moved in with Mitsuki and Yuya. She also set up a kotatsu, which makes Mitsuki feel warm and happy. She tries to study, but can't focus and feels sleepy. Yuya comes to ask what Mitsuki wants for dinner, but finds her sleeping. Seeing that most of her math is wrong, he decides to help. After a while, he too falls asleep. When they wake up, Mitsuki thanks him for correcting her math. Mitsuki is happily making bento for Yuya. When she opens his bag, she finds an empty box that she doesn't recognize. It turns out that it was from Yukina, and apparently Yuya liked her food better. Yukina suggests they should eat together and asks Mitsuki for help. She doesn't want to help, so Hiyori takes over and agrees to help. Hiyori wears a maid outfit to get Yuya's attention, but she doesn't like it when Yukina gets close to him. Before she does anything, Mitsuki takes over. Mitsuki is impressed by Yukina. She seems to know her way around the kitchen. Hiyori switches places with Mitsuki and cheers herself on. When Yukina arrives, she cheers Hiyori too, but when she turns to look, Yukina drops the things she was carrying. Mitsuki was changing clothes when Yuya came out of the bath and saw her in her naked apron. Yuya got slapped because of this, but it made Hiyori get closer to Heaven's Gate. Mitsuki starts an argument with Hiyori. As a result, Hiyori gets upset, throws her book and disappears. Yukina comes over to drop off some snacks and leaves. Mitsuki enjoys her alone time, but deep down, she misses Hiyori a little. Yuya calls Mitsuki for dinner and she acts coldly towards him. Clearly she isn't in a good mood. She thinks of the moments she shared with Hiyori and they both reach out to grab the soy sauce, making Mitsuki's heart race. Yuya thinks something might have gotten stuck in her throat and tries to help her in some way, increasing Mitsuki's satisfaction levels. After slapping Yuya, Mitsuki rushes towards the bathroom, only to find out her TST is gone. She gets dressed and rushes out to look for Hiyori, calling for her with no response. She wonders if her last reaction might have sent Hiyori away to heaven. Yuya finds Mitsuki and she explains that her friend is missing. Yuya also wants to help look for her and even describes Hiyori's appearance to confirm with Mitsuki, which surprises her. Mitsuki goes to the place where Hiyori died and, when she was about to start crying, Hiyori appears. Mitsuki asks why her TST is gone, and just then Hiyori makes it reappear again, this time with a new metallic design since Mitsuki didn't like the old one. They argue over the new design, but since they both missed each other, they apologize and return home. Mitsuki wins the grand prize and they all decide to go to the hot spring. She feels irritated by looking at Yuya and Yukina. After settling into their rooms, everyone heads to the open-air bath, where Yukina talks about Yuya and her childhood. Everyone is enjoying the food when they notice Mitsuki hasn't come back yet, so Yuya goes to check on her. Hiyori teases her for being jealous of Yukina. When Yuya asks how she feels, Mitsuki acts very cold and leaves. Hiyori takes over her body and runs towards Yuya. Yuya mistakenly enters the mixed bath, and while wondering about his past life before Mitsuki, he notices Yukina. They talk about their childhood and it's clear that she has a sweet spot for him. When Yukina is leaving, she slips and falls on Yuya. Mitsuki sees them and runs away, but Yuya follows her and explains that it was a misunderstanding. Yuya notices she might be jealous of Yukina and comforts her. Yukina sits next to Mitsuki, hugs her and says it was an accident and she has nothing to worry about. Nico calls Yuya to ask what he thinks of Mitsuki. She wants to know how Yuya feels about Yukina and Mitsuki, so she grabs his face and gets closer, but he can't move. The next morning, everyone comes to wake Yuya. After waking up, he calls Mitsuki cute and grabs Yukina's breasts. Yukina storms out after slapping Yuya. When Mitsuki is wondering why he's acting weird, Nico tells her that she hypnotized him to be honest and that the effects of it should wear off soon. Everyone returns home by train, and Yuya falls asleep while talking to Yukina. After she leaves the house, Mitsuki brings Yuya a glass of water and leaves. Yuya wakes up and starts mumbling, and after seeing the water Mitsuki brought, he can't stop thinking about her. He enters her room while she is changing clothes. She fears he might do something stupid, but he grabs her by the shoulders and says she needs to stop wearing those panties. She gets angry and tosses him out. Nico, sitting in a cafe, starts laughing at them, as if she can see them. Hiyori, with a long face, takes Mitsuki to show her that the last incident filled up the gauge, and completes the steps to the gate of heaven. They hold hands and start walking toward the gate, bid farewell, and Hiyori disappears into the gate. Mitsuki checks if TST is gone. Yuya apologizes for making trouble and they head to school to continue their life normally. But that's only what Mitsuki thought. On her way back, Hiyori appears and takes Mitsuki with her to show her that she has only reached the second floor of heaven and they have to continue working together.